Good afternoon. I am a journalist and a TV anchor. I interview people for a living. I listen to people's stories, and I present them to the public. It sounds like an easy job, doesn't it? Well, things could certainly get a bit more complicated when you have an addressable audience of hundreds of millions. On any given day, there were thousands of TV interview programs running around the world. One of the key success factors in our business, as I was told, you better be the first to report as soon as news is taking place. I have a different approach with my program. Instead of trying to capture the very moment that was happening, I revisit old news and I record what happened afterwards. Oftentimes, many years after news had taken place, oftentimes when the person at the center of news was nearly forgotten, and oftentimes even with a more controversial storyline. I turn time delay from a journalist's worst enemy to my best friend, as I believe it takes time for a story to play out in its complete form. Since founding my media company, iAsk Media, I have become obsessed in pursuit of completeness of stories I present to the public. In doing so, I see a way of living a complete life on my own, and I have just begun. Today, I'm going to share with you 3 stories from my program. First, story about young boy 7 years after he survived a deadly earthquake. Second, story about middle-aged woman 20 years after she set the world record in weightlifting. And third, story about the oldest mother in China 5 years after she gave birth to twin babies at age 60. On May 12, 2008, an earthquake hit Wenchuan and surrounding areas in China. It hit so badly. And by official account, there were 70,000 people died, and 400,000 people injured, more than 5 million left homeless. It was believed to be the 21st deadliest earthquake on Earth. Hundreds of school buildings collapsed, burying thousands of students. Lin Hao was 9 years old when his school building collapsed on that very day. He ran out of the classroom safely, but what he did next made him a national hero. He went back to the classroom and carried out 2 of his classmates, despite of the danger having himself buried too. That very moment was captured by media, and he was instantly famous nationwide. A couple months later, he accompanied Yao Ming, leading the Chinese national team, into the opening ceremony of the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Earlier this year, Lin Hao came to my program for a 2-hour interview. A more complete story along his journey following his national fame was unveiled to my audience. In the first couple of years, Lin Hao's life was jammed with award activities, movie productions. He was famous and flying high. He had everything except proper time for proper schooling, and he struggled. He told my audience, as his brave act saved 2 other lives 7 years ago, what he needed to do now was to save himself, to be more responsible. He was determined to have a life less eventful, but more complete. I struggled too in my teenager years. Born at the foot of Yellow Mountain in China, as the only child in my family, my childhood was quite lonely until I found a way to fill up all the lonely evenings. On many nights, I pretend to be a TV anchor, and I broadcasted my programs to imaginary audience, a Snoopy dog and a bunny rabbit in my bedroom. I imagine the world outside of Yellow Mountain, and I have a dream that one day I could be heard outside of my hometown. Little did I know, those imaginary nights would have become the very beginning of the journey to which I'm still devoting myself fully today. Determined to complete my dream, I went on to Beijing, then later to Boston to study. Upon graduation from Harvard University, I became a New York-based correspondent for China Central Television. I travel around the world, interviewing heads of states, celebrities, public figures. My interviews were aired through a program called The Leaders. That was my moment. I was not only being heard, I've been heard by millions of people. But at the peak of it all, I quit. In 1993, another Chinese woman had to quit her professional life too. My second story is about a former national champion. She came to my program 20 years after she set the world record in weightlifting. Over the past 30 years, China has adopted a national training program sponsored by government to train and support athletes with the target goal to win gold medals at the world-class sport events such as Olympics. As a result, the Chinese female athletes soon dominated in weightlifting, setting world records after records. Zhou Chunlan was one of them. She was scouted to a provincial training camp at age 16 and winning national medals 3 years in a row, setting world records in 1990. Living in the training camp, she was told not to worry about anything, but just concentrate on your training and competition. However, the intensive training eventually burned her out, and she had to end her professional life. When she was paid $10,000 to retire, she was asked to fund a life outside the training camp. It was then she realized she had not learned any skills outside of weightlifting. She was 30 years old and threw back to the society with limited ability to survive. After trying many different things, and she used up all her retirement money, she ended up working hourly wages at a public bath. It went on for 3 years. One day, the news of former national champion working on hourly wages suddenly attracted media's attention, and her story was made known nationwide. With the support of society, Zhou Chunlan decided to learn new skills, and eventually she opened a dry clean shop. Fast forward 9 years, she was on my program. Neither a national champion nor an hourly wage worker, but a 44-year-old woman who has just gone through all the ups and downs in life. However hard it was, she told my audience, she was determined to complete her life after weightlifting in her own way. Before founding my media company, iAsk, I was well taken care of by China Central Television too. It is the most powerful TV network in China. Under spotlight, looking pretty, I was tasked to interviewing some of the most important people on earth and on some of the most important issues. I enjoyed it. Until one day, I was sitting alone in the editing room, reviewing all the footages of stories. All of a sudden, I realized they were not complete in themselves, and they had to fit the network's agenda. What I need to do at Sims was to create my own program to tell a complete story. However, a journey on my own had made me worry about many challenges I was going to face. Another Chinese woman had to worry about her challenges too when she decided to become the oldest mother in China at the age of 60. Since the 1970s, China has implemented a one-child policy. A family of 3 became commonplace. In fact, over 190 million of them. However, should the only child be lost due to disease or accident, the family is left without any offspring. Latest statistics show there are more than 1 million such families in China today. In my third story, Sheng Hailing lost her only child, her 30-year-old daughter in an accident. And she thought about suicide, because all of a sudden she lost hope. And she tried to adopt unsuccessfully, but she didn't give in to the fate. She decided to be pregnant again at age 60 with the help of virtual fertilization. It was a very determined battle against all the odds. First, there's only 10 to 20% successful rate for women older than 40. And second, that only 10% of women are able to endure the pregnancy. Third, there's a chance 1 out of 300 the kid could be born with defects. Zhou Chongnan, Sheng Hailing came to my program last week and shared her story. Despite all this, she won the fight. What inspired me and my audience was not only her courage to deliver twin babies, but her determination to go on an even more challenging journey raising them. It is quite expensive to raise 2 kids in China, even for young parents with full-time jobs. Sheng Hailing, now she is 65 years old. She had to try everything to make more money, and she's now working 7 days a week. She told me she wanted to live till 100 years old, when her twin babies would turn 40. I was determined too when I founded iAsk Media 1 year ago. Not because I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but because nowhere else could offer me a platform to produce the program to tell a complete story. However, running such a startup in competitive media sectors in China, I felt the need to be selective, focused, and to be able to see things to the end. Up until today, I still get questions. Why? A complete story matters so much. I couldn't answer you more confidently with the stories I just shared with you. Without the complete story, we would not have seen the other side of Ling Hao and how he struggled after becoming a national hero. Without the complete story, we wouldn't have dug deeper enough to understand Zhou Hailing, Zhou Chunlan's determination to start her life again. Without the complete story, we would not have followed up with Sheng Hailing. To witness, it was more challenging for a mom to raise kids than delivering them. As wrap up, I would love to show you a picture which I took 10 years ago. It was a snapshot of a family at Forbidden City in Beijing. I was a first-year journalism major student. I was moved by the smiles of each and every member of that family, so authentic and pure. When I look back at my journey, when I realize through my work, I have offered millions of audience an alternative way to discover news, I think about that family, an ordinary family with smiles, with curious eyes to discover the world in front of them. I do believe every piece of story we started deserves an effort to complete, whether it was started 10 years ago, last month, or even today. By far, I'm not near to the complete end of my dream yet, and I may never be, but I do enjoy the constant pursuit of completeness of life, never forgetting where and how we began, staying positive and focused. Most importantly, believing a good end will come out as time goes by. Thank you very much.